This is a chair. This is a music stand. And this is a practice session. This is also a practice session. Let's talk about organizing your practice session. Now, when we want to get better at something like organizing our practice or even practicing more effectively to get more done, we should probably go and look at people who know what they're doing. And the people who know what they're doing are professional musicians, right? The pros, we call them. So I call a good organized practice pro practice because that's how they got as good as they are today. A great soccer player goes to practice. They do their drills, they practice their techniques. Somebody who knows how to cook is in the kitchen all the time, using and practicing certain skills. So when we look at people who know what they're doing, we can get an idea of how do they learn how to do that by sort of just looking to see how they spend their time. You see, professionals understand how important it is to organize your practice session. And no professional musician would start their practice by just playing their hardest music. They always begin with warm up. And that's because warm up works on fundamentals. And the fundamentals are just the basics that we need to play our instruments. Like, here's the example, right? So, one of the first things we must do is sit with good posture. And then we have to know how to take a good breath. We might work on our embouchure by just playing some notes and making sure it's a good sound. We might work on tonguing to make sure we can play separate notes. No matter who it is, someone who's a professional on their instrument, they're going to do a warm-up first because it works on these fundamentals. Brass players can buzz. They can also do what's called a lip slur, which practices flexibility. A scale or a simple series of notes. That's all part of the deal. Now, woodwind instruments have a lower range and a higher range, so sometimes they'll practice their notes like this. Woodwinds also have lots of keys, and so sometimes it's important to practice lots of different scales or patterns of notes. percussionists use their drumsticks all the time when they're playing many different percussion instruments, and that's where they're going to need to practice the grip and some of the basic strokes that they make on their drum. Anything that we do in a warm-up is not just warming us up, even though it gets our blood flowing and it warms up the temperature of the instrument. It's actually something that we're doing to practice our basic skills. So it's called warm-up because it happens at the beginning before we do everything else, and that's what a warm-up is, even for athletes. But it has to be a special part of your practice where you're focused on the fundamentals. Now, there's other parts and pieces that you can have in your practice, and I like to call them by 3 simple names: the new stuff, the hard stuff, and the fun stuff. Oh, nice. Yeah, I just got a new song in band today. Oh, where should I start? Yes, new page, new note. Okay, how did this go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3. Okay, where do I start? Oh, just got a new solo to work on. Nice. Whoa, this looks hard. Okay. The new stuff. Anything that is brand new that maybe you were assigned recently, or it's just something you just started recently and you want to check it out, and you also don't want to forget everything that you heard about it when it was introduced to you. This part is hard. Oh, man, I do not have this part down yet. Man, I cannot get this part. Oh man, I definitely need to work on this part. Then there's the hard stuff, and that's like really the meat of your practice session. Oh, this is a tough spot. Oh, this is a part that I know I always mess up on. Oh, that's a hard song that I've been working on for 2 weeks. That's the hard stuff, the stuff you already know you need to be working on and that you come back to again and again and again until you've got it. Oh, yes, found it on YouTube. How does that go? There it is. Yeah. And finally, at the end, I've got that carrot, that reward, that time at the end of my practice to play the fun stuff. And that's as important as the other things. If you aren't finding something to play that is just fun and cool on your instrument, then you're missing out on some of the best parts. And I think it's important to do it in that order. So always warm up first, then move to the new stuff. Then there's the hard stuff, and that's like really the meat of your practice session. And finally, at the end, I've got that carrot, that reward, that time at the end of my practice to play the fun stuff. I always put that at the end of my practice so I know it's coming when I'm working hard or getting frustrated on the hard stuff or the new stuff. The fun stuff at the end makes my practice session motivating, and it reminds me that there's a reason I'm doing this tough thing called practice. So, adding the fun stuff at the end of your practice is really important. And if you're not sure what to play for the fun stuff, you can try to figure out songs you already know. You can go on YouTube, and there's so many things out there showing you how to play songs on your music. Or you can bust out smart music and try to find something cool and fun. And if that all doesn't work, you can come and ask me, how do I find something fun to play? I think it's so important. So all of those sections in a row, do you remember? First, we've got warm up and fundamentals, those basics on your instrument. Next, we've got the new stuff. Then we've got the hard stuff. And finally, we've got the fun stuff. I also think it's helpful to think about a certain amount of time that you should spend in each of these sections so you can keep your practice moving and on track. So I usually say about 5 minutes for the warm-up so that you're really practicing the fundamentals. Then about 5 to 10 minutes for the new stuff, depending on how much new stuff you have. And if there's nothing new, you can skip right down to the hard stuff. The hard stuff is that meat of your practice session where you're getting a lot of the work done. So that's going to be 10 to 15 minutes. And finally, for the fun stuff, take at least 5 to 10 minutes. But if it's a lot of fun, you can still play after the whole session. Feel free to keep going. If you can fit all of these things into your practice session, I would call you a pro practicer because I call this pro practice. Warm up, the new stuff, the hard stuff, the fun stuff. So think about your practice session in terms of all of those practice parts. the warm up, the new stuff, the hard stuff, and the fun stuff.